All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Yeah, she can hear us. I texted her already.
This is the alert we got last time, and the file was corrupted.
Uh-oh.
So
Do
X
you
out.
want-
What if you X out?
Huh?
Should be fine.
So hit okay?
I muted and unmuted before Kevin to jump there.
Okay.
Can you all hear us?
Welcome to the disability meeting for November 2021. Please make your introductions for the record. We'll go around the room first, and then I'll call those people who are remoting in.
Stephanie Zimberg, representing Police Commissioner Shea.
John Dorset, designee for Controller Scott String.
Joel Alejandro, PBA.
Chris McGrath, PBA by invitation.
Thomas Gilmore, PBA.
Nicole Jambrisi, Police Pension Fund, present by invitation of the Police Pension Fund.
Anthony Brown, the SBA.
Nick Stefuni as counsel for and invited by DEA, SBA, LPA, and CEA.
Jeffrey Paul, CEA. Chris Monahan, CEA. Bob Sansky, State Pension Fund, present by invitation of the fund.
Andy Vera Miller, Police Pension Fund, present by invitation of the Police Pension Fund.
Kevin Holleran, Police Pension, present by invitation of the fund.
Nico Brooks, Medical Division, by invitation pension.
Dr. Joseph Chupo, Medical Division, by invitation of the pension.
Valerie Evans, Article 2, by invitation, Police Pension Fund.
Sergeant Mike Reese, present by invitation by the pension fund. Stanley Thomas, Police Pension, by invitation of the pension fund.
People behind you.
CBS, Police Pension Fund, present by invitation.
Sergeant Rennie Almonte, Police Pension Fund, present by invitation of the fund.
Angela Trent, Police Pension Fund, present by invitation by the fund.
Lisa Garcia, Pension Fund, present by invitation by the Police Pension Fund.
Okay, we also have Cindy, you're on.
Yes, Cynthia Collins, designee for Mayor Bill de Blasio.
Phil,
Bill Dukes, designee for Finance Commissioner Sharif Suleiman.
Lou Turco.
Yeah, I'm on, Kev. Lou Turco, LBA.
Okay, Damien. Gary.
Gary DeRosa, SBA, present by invitation.
Representing the actuary.
Sherry Chan, City Actuary, present by invitation from the Mayor's office.
Sherry, do you have anybody else with you?
Yes, Anderson, I don't know if you want to unmute.
Anderson Wayne, Office of the Actuary, present by invitation for the Mayor's office.
Okay, that's it? All right, Law Department.
Marta Ross, Law Department, present by invitation of the Mayor's office.
Okay, are we missing anyone else?
Damien didn't respond.
Yeah,
Damien?
here though.
He's muted.
All right,
He's not muted, he's unmuted.
okay, I think that's everybody. So,
Of the mayor's office.
who? Top tomato.
I missed it. Who was that?
I think that was Damien.
Okay.
Okay. Before we begin, I'd just like to remind everyone, tomorrow is Veterans Day. For those veterans, if there are any in the room, thank you for your service. For everyone else, I'd like to remind you that we celebrate tomorrow in honor of our veterans, many of whom have passed away, to give us the rights that we have in order to meet the safety and security of this country. And so I'd like to take just a moment of silence to remember those who are veterans. Thank you. Okay. Getting to the agenda, public meeting, page 1, to accept the minutes of the previous meeting, Wednesday, October 13th, 2021, and to confirm the next meeting date, Wednesday, December 8th, 2021. Okay? Wow. Pages 2 through 28.
Pages 2 through 28, nothing of any controversial nature.
Thank you, Jeff. So that's so moved on all of those. Okay. Now, pages 29 through 38 are memorandums regarding preliminary transferable earnings skim from police to the POVSF and PSOVSF as of June 30th, 2021. If the actuary's office is on the line, do you have any other further comments with regards to this memorandum?
I can run through the, sure. I'm on a new computer, so I'll try to do as best as I can here. All right. You see the derivation in front of you. Is it small? Is it big? Can you see it?
Yes.
Maybe make it a little bigger, Sherry. That would be great.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. So this is for the police officers. I'm going to scroll down to the top portion, which is provided to us by the Comptroller's office. You'll see that the police pension fund got approximately $9.9 billion in the equity return. The amount that potentially is skimmed over to CSF is the amount above the hypothetical interest rate. And the earnings on that was calculated to be approximately $348 million. So if you net that out, you get $9.5 billion. There's no deficit to be made up in the past years, so the potential skim is $9.5 billion. This amount is allocated between the police officers and the police superior officers based on contributions made on behalf of the members of each group. So for police officers, you'll see that it is, so if you took the 50% of that 9.5 billion, you get the 4.76 billion. That amount that is potentially allowed to be skimmed over to the VSF is capped by what's called the ABO gate, or another way to think about it is you can't skim over more than what the liability is. So if it's overfunded, you can't skim anything over anymore. So the liabilities for the police officers, VSF, was calculated to be $1.9 billion approximately for this purpose. And the assets that reside in it has increased from last fiscal year. And you see $2.3 billion in it, so it is overfunded. Because it is overfunded, nothing can be skimmed over from the potential skim. On the next page is a very similar story for the police superior officers. You see the same derivation again that was provided to us from the Comptroller's office. Out of the 9.5 billion, a little bit over the 50% is allocated to the police superior officers. So you get about $4.8 billion allowed to be skimmed over, but it's the same story, $6 billion, and the assets that reside in the police superior officers, VSF, is $3.65 billion. So because it is overfunded, there's also no skim that is going to be transferred over to police superior officers.
Sherry, it's Joe Alejandro. I have one question. When you say that there are no deficits on the fund, did you mean no deficits for a one-year period going back, or there are no deficits at all to be made up from past years, prior years?
It's cumulative deficit, so it's for all prior years.
Okay, so technically there's no deficits on the fund, and the funds are, according to you, overfunded.
Correct. Well, it's not a deficit on the fund. It's,
right.
In any prior years, the excess earnings on the police pension fund does not exceed the hypothetical interest rate, then there's a deficit accumulated. So it's not really the fund, it's a separate account. So in all past years, you've covered everything above the cumulative hypothetical interest rate.
Right, and so there's no deficits to be made up on the fund.
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you. So I just ask if anybody has any questions. I'd like just a roll call vote on the first memorandum.
Okay. So PBA?
PBA abstains on this.
DEA?
DEA votes yes.
SBA?
Yes.
LBA?
Yes.
CEA?
Yes.
Commissioner of Finance?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
Controller?
Yes.
And the police commissioner?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion carries.
Okay.
So Joe, I'd like to make a motion that we exit, the police pension fund and enter the police officers variable supplement fund.
Second.
So, can I ask for a roll call?
Okay, PBA? Are you talking about on the memorandum or going into the?
Going in.
Roll call.
A roll call of people in the meeting.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
PBA, Joe Alejandro.
Mayor?
Cynthia Collins, designee for Mayor Bill de Blasio.
Controller?
John Duett, the designee for control assessor.
And the Commissioner of Finance.
Bill Dukes, designee for Finance Commissioner Sharif Suleiman.
So Joe, as this is related to the explanation that was provided to us in the main section of the meeting, I would request that I would like to make a motion to accept the recommendation of the actuary and accept the transfer.
PBA would just request a roll call vote on that.
So I need a second first.
Oh, yeah, second from the PBA. Well, second only to have a vote on it.
Correct.
Okay. Second to have a vote on the memorandum.
Okay.
So, and now I request a roll call vote.
Okay, PBA.
PBA abstains on it.
Mayor?
Yes.
Controller?
Yes.
Commissioner of Finance?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
So at this time, I'd like to make a motion to exit.
John, while we're in here,
Yeah.
maybe we could do the election of officers, so we don't need to go back into the meeting?
That's an excellent idea.
Well, the superior officers are not in.
No, you have to elect the PO.
Separately?
Yeah, we'll do it.
So while we're in here with the election of officers for the police officers variable stuff.
All right, so if we'll go to page 66, the Police Officers Variable Supplement Fund Annual Meeting, we're having election of officers. The nominees are Chairman, President of PBA, Patrick Lynch, Secretary, Controllers Rep, Susanna Vickers, Board Member, First Vice President, PBA, John Puglisi, Board Member, Second Vice President, PBA, Joe Alejandro, Board Member, recently appointed Chairman of Board of Trustees, PBA, Thomas Gilmore, Board Member, Mayor's Rep, Cynthia Collins, Board Member, Finance Department Rep, Mr. Philip Dukes. I'll just note that all are incumbents except for Tom Gilmore, who's just come in. Are there any other nominations for the aforementioned positions?
Do we have to check the hallway?
I will always
Candidate?
One ballot.
You will, so being that there are no other nominations.
One ballot to accept the site.
All right. Congratulations, one and all.
There will be a party later on, I don't know where, but.
Yeah, I have a speech from Ms. Vickers, but I'm not going to read it.
Okay.
And with that,
I'd like to make a motion that we exit the police officers variable supplement fund and enter the police superior officers variable supplement fund.
Yeah, you gotta go back into.
I'm sorry. I withdraw that and I make a motion to exit the police officers variable supplement fund and enter the police pension fund regular meeting.
PBA seconds that.
Okay. Now I'd like to make a motion to enter into the police superior officers variable supplement fund.
You have no.
a second.
Second.
Now I
Okay.
request a roll call of the attendees.
DEA?
Jeffrey Ward, DEA.
SBA?
Anthony Burley, SBA.
LBA?
Lou Turco, LBA.
CEA?
Chris Monahan, CEA.
Mayor?
Cynthia Collins, designee for Mayor Bill de Blasio.
Commissioner of Finance?
Bill Dukes, designee for Finance Commissioner Sharif Suleiman.
And the Controller.
John Dorsey, designee for control assessor. So with respect to the issue before us, having heard from the actuary in the main section of the police pension fund meeting and consistent with the memo that was provided, I'd make a motion to accept the recommendation of the actuary and accept the transfer of assets into the police superior officers for the supplement fund.
Do we have a second?
Second, SBA, second.
Okay, any objections? All right, so moved.
So with that, I'd like to ask that we do the election of officers of the police superior officers.
With the election of officers, the nominees are Chairman, President of the LBA, Lieutenant Lou Turco, Secretary, Controllers Rep, Ms. Rosanna Vickers, Board Members, President of the CEA, Captain Christopher Monahan, President of the SBA, Sergeant Vincent Valalong, President of DEA, Detective Paul DiGiacomo, Mayor's Rep, Ms. Cynthia Collins, and Finance Rep, Mr. Philip Dukes. All are incumbents except for Sergeant Vincent Valalong. Do I hear any other nomination?
I'll cast one vote for the slate.
All right, show that the nominations are closed and that Mr. Dorset has cast one vote for the slate. Congratulations.
So with that, congratulations, take your victory lap. Now we're about to enter into the public session of the police officers pension fund.
Thank you, John.
Police second, that.
Oh.
Okay.
That means there's one more item on the. Okay. There's one more item on the agenda, and that is a discussion on police fiscal year 2021 post-June billing.
So I guess I will just jump in because the billing is the billing for the controller's office. So I'd like to alert people that on pages 67 through 76 is a memo provided by the controller's office to the pension fund, particularly to Stanley as the CFO for, I think that's the appropriate title, of the police pension fund, outlining the PS and OTPS spending for the post-June period. There's a detail of what positions are covered, as well as what payments were made to individuals, as well as a listing of the OTPS expenses and also some copies of bills. What I believe we will be doing going forward is on a quarterly basis and likely a fifth time a year as a true-up. We will be providing not only to the pension fund, the billing, but in turn to the Board of Trustees to ask questions on. If there are specific questions that I don't have an answer to, I'm happy to go back to the control office and get those answers. But we, just for purposes of clearing up the record, we have been providing this for several years to the fund. It has not been discussed at the board level, but it has been provided to the fund. So in order to remedy that and make sure that the trustees are aware of all the expenses, future practice will have this being put on the agenda at least 4 times a year. I suspect 5 times a year for us to opine on and take action if needed.
Well, not blaming anyone in this room, I think it's always a good practice to have the board review material, not send it to someone who is in a ministerial position in the organization. And I think it's better that the board sees these things so that there are no questions as to validity. And of course, in the spirit of openness that has always seemed to have emanated from one particular seat at this table, I want to make sure that we continue that openness on everything. So while we're at it, and since I'm now able to review this material, I would ask just a general question. Have there been any new positions that have been hired under Corpus in this quarter?
I don't have a list in front of me, Joe. That's actually a very good question. I am happy to go back and ask for an update on hires, particularly as we get towards the end of the year. I know that the trustees are always interested to just know who to call about certain things. So we can certainly pull that together. That's not a problem.
Okay.
So I'll make a note of that. And if there are any other questions, certainly you can raise those now, but you can always contact me at any point, and I'm happy to try to figure out whatever answers to questions that you have.
Okay.
And I just want to also remind folks, the share that is here that is considered police is approximately 18.5%. That gets recalculated typically at the end of the fiscal year based on the assets that the funds had individually at the close of the fiscal year, with certain adjustments made for, I'll give you an example, hedge funds. As we're all aware at this table, police invest in hedge funds. Some of the other systems don't, so you would pay the hedge fund expense that somebody else wouldn't pay. But for the most part, it's, a good portion of it, if not exclusively, but a good portion of it is based on that final fiscal year close, with some tweaks in there for different asset classes.
So, I know, John Adler tried to address this at a prior meeting. There should be, because this is 2 years behind, I believe.
Oh, so that's a good point. There's the question of the lag at which it's paid.
Right.
Which is separate from when we do the billing. So one is a city function that I'm less familiar with because it's outside of the controller's office with the actual release of the money, but the billing is done quarterly. I understand that John was making the point about the 2-year lag on when the city makes whole the payments. I'm not in a position admittingly not in a position today to address that component of it.
Why don't we do this then?
Sure.
Someone should at least draft a memo or something to explain the differentiation between when these things are earned or accumulated in some sense, and when they're actually paid out, the difference. The statements were made that were a little disturbing to me.
At this meeting?
Yeah. From someone in the controller's office about, we have plenty of money. And I don't.
To be clear, not today.
Not today.
Okay.
That person is not here at the table.
Okay.
But I've heard it from 2 individuals at the controller's office. And it was disturbing to me because my understanding is this money, there's not supposed to be any extra money.
I understand the point.
It's just money that's used as you go along in order to provide a benefit to the pension fund and its beneficiaries, not to have extra money being utilized for God knows other reasons, which I have no idea. Okay, so I think what we need to have is something to address what the monies are used for, when they're paid, how they are accumulated. In any sense, they can't be, in my understanding, any extra monies.
So I understand the point that you're making. I'm also cognizant of where we are in the midst of the calendar year, and I'm wondering if it makes sense to do that in December or to do that in January, based on just what the questions that you're asking and whom should have an understanding of what the process is going forward.
Well, I think
it
should not be pushed forward because people have been doing it for a while. They should have an explanation.
No, I understand that.
And I understand people are packing, but the issue now is that we need to have an understanding. Some people are at this table and they're going to be around, and also there may be some new trustees who would like an understanding of what's going on too.
And that is my point, that if to do it in December, only to do it again in January may not be the most appropriate, it may not be the most appropriate use of time. I have no issue on a personal level on doing it in December versus January. I'm just trying to think about what's the most efficient thing for the board to do in order to make sure that trustees are aware of what's going on. And I understand all of your issues are honing in on the fiduciary duty of the board to have oversight and to look at things. And I'm not trying to impede the ability of the board to know how things get paid and what happens and what the mechanisms are. I'm just thinking that does it make sense to do it in December versus January? That's my only.
No, I understand, but we're being asked to vote on this, right? And
so
it should be.
I believe it's
for December
item today.
Right.
I'm happy to take a vote on something that I'm very comfortable with what was presented. But
No,
I'm a discussion.
let me make my point. I'm not happy to vote on something where I don't have a complete understanding of it. And that's why I'm asking for that information before we take a vote. We could table this until December. I understand that. And I understand people have to do whatever they have to do in your office, but business goes on. Elections come and go, as I've been told, and elections were here. No, people knew elections were going to come months ago, and we are here now. I need to have an understanding, if I'm being asked to vote on something, what I'm voting on. So I just ask that someone can find, I guess, we were talking about this before, people's time, and it's all precious, and I get it, but I need to understand if people want my vote to at least explain to me, where the monies are. Have people been hired underneath this? I need to know how these things are paid out, why there's a lag, if there is a lag, when are we paying it from, as opposed to What are we getting now in front of us? That's a simple, I mean, it makes sense to me as a trustee to know that.
I'm not objecting to it at all, just questioning whether or not the timing works, but I believe we have a presentation that we have provided to other systems about Corpus and how it works. And I'm sure with a couple of updates to names or to positions, we would probably be able to provide that same presentation to this board. And admittingly, it may not be me doing it. I may actually have someone else come over to explain, because I think there's some intricacies in the way that it's actually done administratively that are beyond what I encounter.
And it's a good idea for you to understand that too.
Yes.
As I hope that for the best that you'll be in the position you're in now somehow in January. And so you should have an understanding of that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
I'm not going to say I think others, but appreciate that. So,
thank you.
All right. So I'd like at least some information. Life goes on for us.
Yeah.
We need to have that information in order to have votes.
So Kevin, I would just keep the item on the agenda for next month. And
that's a table on those matters.
Okay.
All right. So I make a motion to now go into, unless there's any other business, I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session for purposes of discussing disability cases.
So if you're on the meeting.
Wait, hold on, we need a second?
No, I didn't know we had to declare a public. Yeah, we gotta do that.
So let me second Joe's motion
He was going to the executive.
Right.
Make a motion
Going
to
into
exit
executive.
public.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So yeah, okay.
So in other words, I think what he's saying is I make a motion to leave public session, go into executive session.
Yeah.
I thought I had said that, but I was, I appreciate the pickup, and we'll go.
No, I'm here. Second job. Hey, we'll be here in January.
That's right.
Well, I'm here for you, still got.
If you're on and dial in remotely, please exit this meeting and use the executive link that was previously emailed to you.